Hello and welcome to lecture number 82. This is the second to last lecture in period 7, and the topic is 7.14, Post-War Diplomacy. The theme is America and the World. There's one learning objective, and that is explain the consequences of U.S. involvement in World War II. There is also just one key concept that's covered in 3 separate slides. The key concept talks about what the post-war world order looks like, and it says, the war-ravaged conditions of Asia and Europe and the dominant U.S. role in the Allied victory in the post-war peace settlements allowed the United States to emerge from the war as the most powerful nation on Earth. In Asia, Japan had been weakened after months of bombing even before the atomic bombs were dropped. The city of Tokyo and other industrial centers were bombed by B-29s in the American Air Force. The atomic bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki caused a lot of destruction and suffering as well. All of that required huge efforts to rebuild the country. Under the terms of surrender, Japan would also be temporarily governed by a U.S. administration headed by General Douglas MacArthur. China was recovering from the Japanese attacks during World War II. The invasion of Manchuria in 1931 actually predated World War II, and their conquered territory reached as far south as southern China. Before the Manchurian invasion in World War II, China was fighting a civil war between nationalist democratic forces and communist forces led by Mao Zedong. When the World War concluded, the Civil War resumed, and by 1949 the communist forces under Mao took control of China. Chiang Kai-shek, the leader of the nationalist forces, was exiled to the island of Taiwan. Islands across the Pacific were also scarred by the fighting. Remember that Japan had built a large Pacific empire across the Pacific Ocean that turned into battle sites while the United States implemented its island-hopping campaign. The Philippines was one of the largest groups of islands in the Pacific. They were a U.S. territory before the war, and on July 4, 1946, they granted independence to the Treaty of Manila. This was in keeping with one of the main goals of entering the war. Under the Atlantic Charter, FDR and Winston Churchill agreed that at the end of the war, countries would be allowed to have self-determination, that is, the ability to elect a government of their choosing and not have one forced on them. Finally, the Bikini Atoll is a group of islands that's in the Marshall Islands. It was used as a nuclear weapon testing site from 1946 to 1958. Weapons up to 1,000 times more powerful than the bombs from Hiroshima and Nagasaki were tested, with several Navy ships nearby to see what the effects of nuclear bombs would be on military equipment. After several series of tests, the U.S. stopped the testing, but not without having caused irreparable environmental damage. The original residents of the atoll had been relocated with the promise that they'd be able to go back. However, the residual nuclear radiation on the islands made them uninhabitable. The reefs were destroyed, and a shipwreck graveyard littered the surrounding area. Nearby fishermen also were contaminated from the residual radiation. It wasn't until 2007 that the U.S. was forced to pay $125 million for the displacement of the Bikini residents. European countries that were sites of fighting and bombings had to be rebuilt as well. German cities like the industrial center of Dresden were firebombed during the war. Dresden in particular had 1,600 acres of destroyed territory. The displaced Jewish population after the Holocaust also presented a large humanitarian crisis. The creation of the State of Israel in 1949 provides a place for some of the Jewish diaspora to go to and start a state of their own. Some will migrate to the United States as well. For fear that the poor economic conditions will lead to the rise of communist movements in Europe, the United States puts together financial aid packages for countries that are in need. The Marshall Plan of 1948 helped finance the rebuilding of Europe and effectively built goodwill between the U.S. and the recipients of the aid. Period 8 covers this fight against communism and the Cold War more deeply, but when the United States began to see the amount of poverty and suffering in Europe, they thought that this would be an opening for socialism or communism to creep into Europe. As a way to keep communism out, the U.S. helps to finance the rebuilding of any country that would implement a democratic government. Germany was placed under Allied occupation after the war. This was decided before the end of the war at the Yalta Conference and then again at the Potsdam Conference. Each ally, the US, the UK, and USSR, would control different German zones. Finally, Eastern European countries were allowed to choose their own governments, but in reality they became puppet Soviet governments, or they made up what was called the Eastern Bloc. As a result of the weakened powers of Europe and Asia, the US was primed to step into a role of leadership. Negotiations for what a post-war world looked like took place before the war was over. The Yalta Conference in February 1945 was held in Crimea while the war was still going. FDR, Winston Churchill, and Joseph Stalin met to decide how Germany was to be divided after the war. Additionally, they discussed plans to create a new international organization that would maintain world peace. It would be similar to the League of Nations, though reformed in some of its powers. The Potsdam Conference took place a few months later after victory was secured in Europe to finalize the terms of reparations for Germany, the future of Eastern Europe, and the use of atomic weapons. It was at this conference where President Truman informed Joseph Stalin of the successful atomic test and the possibility to use such a weapon against Japan. It's at this point that relations between the US and the Soviet Union begin to deteriorate. In 1945, the first conference for a multinational organization was held in San Francisco between 50 countries' representatives to sign the charter for what will become the United Nations. This time around, the US will join the multinational organization in October of 1945. There's a clear comparison to be made as to how the United States accepted its post-war role after World War II versus how it behaved after World War I in their isolationist behavior that rejected the League of Nations and tried to forge a unilateral path towards diplomacy. In early 1946, just 1 year into the United Nations, the U.S. introduced a plan for atomic regulation and disarmament, though it's rejected by the Soviet Union, so therefore it's not adopted. The Soviet Union was threatened by the U.S.'s use of atomic weapons on Japan and thought that this was a strategy for the U.S. to keep the bomb's technology to themselves and deny it to everyone else. Finally, here's the recap. The United States emerges as the most powerful country in the world after World War II, and it sets the stage for a Cold War versus the Soviet Union. Thank you for watching. If you would like to watch the next lecture, you can click the video link on the screen. And if you're looking for more practice to help you on the AP exam, you can visit apushslides.com. I wish you the very best in all of your studying and look forward to seeing you back in the next lecture.